Good morning everyone. Today we will cover a topic of use case diagram of OOST. The subject code is KC054. Hi, I am Chitra from AKGEC college. So today we will cover the topic use case diagram. In introduction, we will study the brief about the use case. We will study the basics of use case, how to draw it, its specification, and a case study which is briefing about your use case diagram like courseware management system. We are taking an example of this. First, let's start with the basics of use case diagram. What is the base use case basically? It's a diagrammatic representation which is used to identify the primary element and the process that form the system. And the primary elements are termed as generally here actors. The process are termed as the use case. Use case diagram shows which actor interact with the system, how it will interact, and what actions he will gonna perform. So a use case is capture the functional aspect all of your system, and more specifically it contain or it capture the business process that is carried out in the system. Use case diagram define the requirement of a system defined that is needs to be modeled. The elements of use case diagram. Let's take a closer look. What are the elements that consist in use case diagram? The very first one is actor. As I have shown here, there are two actors, and the graphical representation of actor is a stick diagram, a circle with a stick diagram. For example, we have drawn an actor here, doctor. We have drawn an actor here, patient, because these are the two actors which can interact with the hospital management system or the hospital system if you are having. The different role the actor can represent the actual business role which of the user in the given system. For example, if it is a hospital system, then who will going to use that system? A doctor, might be a patient. So these are the possible actor in that. Considering you are modeling a banking application, so who will be the actor? An actor can be a customer who will use that system. So the customer is also representing as an actor in the application. Similarly, the person who provides the service at the counter available, that is also an actor because you are also using the system in some aspect. So an actor is generally representing as a stick figure in a use case diagram that is depicted outside the system boundary because he needs to interact with the system. So that's why he remain outside the system boundary. He will interact through those associations. In continuation of that, the other elements of the use case diagram in the UML, the first one is actor and the second one is use case. And the visual representation of the use case is in elliptical form. In the elliptical form, we need to mention all the business functionality in the system. As the first step in identifying the use case, first we should list the discrete business function which will define your problem statement. Each of the function which will be classified as a potential use case here. For example, here for the patient, I have mentioned here make appointment, or for the doctor, he can perform he can suggest for the medical test. He will not perform the medical test. The medical test will be performed by the lab technicians, right? So in that case, if we will consider a complex system, then the technician or the lab technicians or the lab attendant, that will also be the actor. Another element of the use case in continuation of that, it's a system boundary. First, we have studied actor with a stick diagram. Second, in elliptical form, there will be the use case that's define the business process. Third, the system boundary. There will be a boundary. Outside the boundary, there will be actor. Inside it, there are the business process. The system boundary define the scope of the system actually. A system cannot have an infinite functionality. It will always follow the use case, also needs to have some definite limits. So a system boundary is required here which will define the limit of the entire system. It is always represented in the form of a rectangle that is spanning all the use cases in the system. For example, it's a simple use case diagram where there is a actor patient and there is a actor doctor. What a patient can do, that is mentioned here in a elliptical form use case. What a doctor can do possibly, that is mentioned in the elliptical use case, right? Then there comes relationship in use case. Previously, as we have studied the element, there are actor, there are use cases, there are system boundaries. Then how these use case will be connected with another one? They are connected with another through the relationship. So there are relationship in use case also. The UML use cases shared the different kind of relationship. A relationship between the two use case is basically a dependency between the two use case, that defining a relationship from one use case to the another. It is basically a decision of the modeler of use case. And use case relationship can be one of the following. It can be include, it can be extend as well. In the case of include, as the name suggests, include, so it is the required for the functionality of the one. When a use case is depicted as using the functionality of the another use case in the diagram, then we use this kind of relationship include, and it cannot be mentioned with a line or with the arrow, preceded with the arrow. It will be always depicted with the dashed arrow, dotted arrow within arrow ahead, and on the arrow there will be mentioned include also within the this one parenthesis, which is used for the tags, right? And the stereotype we need to mention include. Include here defines that to make an appointment, validating its record is mandatory. It is included in that. Automatically it will do that. Otherwise the make appointment will not be performed. This use case only performed or only completed once when it validates the patient record, then only the appointment will get fixed. So it is an included use case in that. The one use case, if it is not completed or it will not get completed functionality until unless the include use case will get performed in that. So in the include, one use case is using the functionality of the another use case here. Another one relationship is extend. As we have studied include, that it is the required one for the functionality of the another use case, otherwise that use case will not get executed. The second one is extend. This relationship between the two use case, basically it shows that it is extending the functionality of the one use case. It is not required here. It is add-on like. It is adding the functionality. It is enhancing its functionality. If it will not extending, if it not require, then the existing use case, the parent use case will still gonna work fine. The child use case adds to the existing functionality and the characteristics of the parent use case. An extend relationship is depicted with a directed arrow, dashed arrow basically again with the dotted, similar to the include relationship. And the stereotype which we need to mention, that is extend here. See here, for performing the medical test, it says it might be required to perform all the pathological tests. It is extending the functionality of medical test. It is not required. It is an add-on. If you will not go to performing the pathological test, then the normal medical test will gonna perform fine. So here the perform medical test is a parent use case, whereas the pathological test are the child use case. So the child use case is here extending the functionality of the parent one. Or in a simpler example, if we say, let's consider a use case, a student is having a login page, so he can, what possibly a student can do in a system. A student can register, he can do the registration. So one actor is here student, and in the boundaries, if we are having a use case like registration, then we can say to the registration use case, there is an extended use case that is required help or need help. Generally, you have seen in any of the portal like Gmail login or any of the portal or any of the registration page, it is mentioning here need help. So it is optional, it is add-on. If you will click on it, then that will also execute it. But the parent use case will gonna still work fine without the required, without the extended one. But in the case of include, the another use case, the dependent use case on is basically have to get included in the above one. Here, without validating the records, one cannot do the appointment here. So it's a required one. It needs to get included in its functionality. That's why the stereotype name is here include. But in the case of extend, as the name suggests extend, it means enhancing the functionality of the another one. It is not mandatory. Otherwise, the parent use case still will gonna work fine if the child will not required. If it is required, then it is extending its functionality, right? The another relationship in the use case diagram, there is a generalization, and in the UML, or you can say in the object oriented software designing, generalization is generally mentioned by or depicted by a line with a triangle ahead. With the triangle ahead, it's a parent-child relationship between the use cases. In use case diagram, generalization is generally depicted by the directed arrow with the triangle arrowhead, as I earlier says. The child use case is connected to the base of the arrow, whereas on the tip of the arrow there will be the parent use case. Like here we say store the patient record on the paper, And another use case we are having, store the patient record on computerized file. So the computerized files are the child use case, that is its generalized form is storing the record on a paper file as well. Writing the use case UML definition. A use case diagram, as we have seen, it's a visual depiction of the different scenario, how the actor interact with your system basically, right? So the usefulness of the use case is a more than as a tool of communication between the requirement capture, that the team will capture it, and the user group. So the next step after finalizing of the use case diagram is to document the business functionality into a clear-cut and detailed use case specification. That's why the name is your use case specification. Whatever the diagrammatic representation you have made, after that a clear-cut detailed specification is called use case specification. Elaborated the use case specification are used as an input for the design and the development process and for writing the test case as well. A use case specification document should enable you to easily document the business flow. The information that to document in the use case specification, it includes what actors are involved, what steps they will perform, what are the business rules, and so forth, right? A use case specification document should cover the following areas. For example, what are the actors, what are the precondition, what are the post condition, how will be the flow, how the flow will mention, how the one activity to another the flow will get shifted, the specific requirements, special, if there are any kind of special requirements are there or not, and what are the kind of relationship held between them, the use case, right? There are the different use cases, so what relationship is exhibiting between them. So all these you need to mention in the specifications. Considering the use case, for the use case, let's just consider an example or a case study, that is courseware management system. So let's design its model. So first we will do its modeling. First we have to analyze the problem statement. To analyze it, the very first step is to identify its potential actors. How many actors will be there? Who will gonna interact with the system? And in what kind of format he will gonna communicate with the system? What will be the further process? What will be the further use cases? So let's have a quick look on all this. So the very first one, the actor, right? So first we will brief the activities, then we will, after briefing, we will gonna note it down how many actors we will find out. So what are the basic functions or the operation which we can perform in a courseware management system? As a title mentions here, courseware management system. So course needs to manage, right? So the very first one, business process, is course and the topic that make up a course. There will be a tutor, definitely, who will gonna teach that course. A course administrator who will gonna manage the assignment of course to the tutor. There will be assignment absolutely to the teacher who will gonna teach a particular course. There will be a scheduler, there will be a calendar that will be generated. Then there are students, which student will get which course, right? So the entities that perform the action will be the actor of the courseware management. So if we study our problem, so how many actors will be there? We are seeing tutor, the one who will teach the student, the actor, the one who will gonna learn the course, the third one, administrator, who will gonna manage the course. So there are tutor, course administrator, and the student. Through our problem, when we enlist our business process, then we have identified that these are the possibly three actors. And a primary actor is course administrator, because he needs to manage all the thing. Because a student can only learn the course, a tutor can teach the course, but administrator needs to manage all the courseware management system, right? So in the next process, let's identify the business process in the courseware management system. Which actor will gonna perform which kind of business process? The very first one, business process, is manage the course or manage the course assignment. These are the two processes which will be managed by the administrator, right? But in the manage course, it's again a complex process. Managing it not only includes just manage, it including the view course as well. It include manage the topic for a course. It include manage the course information as well. Then if we are having course management, basically course assignment management, if we will manage the course assignment, then there are viewing the course calendar, view the tutor, manage the tutor information, adding course to the tutor, which course will be assigning to which tutor. All these are the sub process which will be enlisted in them. So if we draw a final use case, then we can see we are having here a course administrator, a student, and an actor. A student can only view the course calendar, as we see. A student can learn the course. A tutor can view the course calendar, he can manage its information because it's tutor information. But a course administrator, he can view the course, he can manage the topic, he can manage the course information, he can view the course, he can view the tutor as well, he can manage the tutor information, he can manage the course to the tutor also, he can assign the course to the tutor as well. So, and we are mentioning here that these three are the actor and these are outside the system boundaries here. Inside the boundaries, we have managed here the use cases. This is another example of ATM banking system. Like there are two actors we have identified. One is the customer who will gonna go to the ATM. What are the possible operation? What are the business operation or business process the customer can do? And an operator, what an operator can do. A customer can do withdrawal of funds. He can go for the query account, just query the account. He can transfer the funds. If he is taking the withdrawal, then it is by default, you cannot take out the fund until unless you are validating the PIN. So it's a required use case for that withdrawal fund. So there is a stereotype mention include. If you are inquiring about your account, still you have to enter your PIN. Again, validating PIN is required. That's why it's a include stereotype mention is here. If you need to transfer the fund, still you have to enter the PIN. So it is a required use case for performing any of the business process. What an operator can do, he can add the cache, he can start the system, he can shut down the system. These are the possible processes. So all the actors are mentioning outside the system. Inside the system boundaries, we are mentioning the process and how these use cases are related with each other, with the include stereotype or with the extend stereotype. These are the sample specification of the ATM machine. Like actor, it's mentioned here bank customer and the bank. Precondition, there should be an active network connection to the bank. Basic flow of the events, how the process will gonna and do basically. What after which process which will gonna execute it. That's the flow mentioning here in the flow, right? Alternative flow, what will be the happen? If not a valid card, then what would be happen? What are the post condition after successful completion? If the use case ends in the success, the user is validated and may continue with the specific transaction. Failure condition, if there is a failure to validate the user, the ATM shall log out the event, right? It will log from the event due to the reason of the failure. Then there are special requirement as well. Thank you very much. So I'm giving here a brief. In the PPT, we are mentioning the topic use case diagram. In the use case, we have learned what are the basic elements of the use case, how they are related with each other. With an example, we have studied how to write the specification as well. After creating, you have to write the specification as well. Thank you very much. If you have any further query, then you can do the comment. Thank you so much.